The Weeknd in The Idol was a disaster.
I forgot about that.
You forgot about good. I want more people to forget about that.
That was this year. Oh my gosh.
Maybe I shouldn't even have brought it up so I can save his grace, because The Weeknd in The Idol, first of all, that show, it was not good. It was not good. But also his performance in it was I still
it's
can't,
questionable.
Exactly. I still can't tell if he's doing it on purpose or not.
No, he did say he wants his character to be uncomfortable.
Yeah.
But my problem, which has always been my problem,
Yeah.
is that he's one of the executive producers on the show.
Right.
And his character being
that type of sleazeball?
Yeah, his character being so non-consensual.
Yeah.
What's that about?
Yeah. That's just very weird to me. All right, welcome back, people. It's Soundbites, part of the Album Mode podcast, where we're talking about the music, the culture, and the internet, and how those three things intertwine to create the music culture that we have today. My name is Demar Grant, a.k.a. The Bunny, a.k.a. King Grant, and I'm here with my esteemed co-host, co-creator, Adriel Smiley, a.k.a. AdrielSmiley.com, a.k.a. Mr. Smiley, a.k.a. The Godfather. Adriel Smiley.
Yes.
We are back. I feel like we were doing like a recap episode.
A little bit.
Yeah, a recap episode. Mm-hmm. We're talking about favorite storylines throughout music this year.
A lot to choose from.
There's a lot to choose from. A lot to choose from. If you want to just take big names and just like rustle them up and look at them, you could do that. Mm-hmm. You could take the smaller things, award shows. You know, there's a lot happening this year. How did you feel about just give me a little taste of how did you feel about this year in music?
Very interesting year in music. It felt like almost like a breaking point in a sense. Like I think that this is a time where things are split. Like things are going in a different direction. Especially because this is I think our third year doing the pod. Mm-hmm. And
it is, yeah.
And I remember last year you brought this up of like, how many good albums are we going to get? How many big albums are we going to get? And we were like, is there enough? Should there be more? Yeah. How come I don't see this? And this year we didn't ask that question as much, but this year felt like it answered last year's question in a sense. So very, very interesting. What about you? When you kind of went back and were like thinking about the stories, what did that make you think about like kind of the year overall?
This year has made me think about, I think, the shrinking of the music industry, where the like TikTok's influence, right, which has been good and bad, but I feel like if you talk to an artist about TikTok, they'd be like, "This is hell on earth. I can't deal with this shit anymore."
Definitely.
But there's also been like cuts at Spotify that recently happened, very recently.
A lot of cuts.
Cuts at Bandcamp, right? Beloved, and was actually making money, and the people that just bought it just like totally flipped it and fucked it.
Get out of here.
And then I think about, the thing with the Grammys allowing AI music, which means that's just less jobs for musicians, right? Yeah. That's literally what that means. So I've just been like, the music industry, like, I don't think people view it this way, but I just see like a hollowing out of, music industry, entertainment, that type of like, just like what constructs the actual machine. Yes. And what helps the machine go forward is getting actually smaller.
Very different.
Right. So that's what actually hit me the most when I was really thinking about it. Right. When it comes to like the storylines, there's tons of fun storylines.
But the actual business.
Yeah. I'm like, it's probably making more money than it ever has. But part of the profit is if you can shrink the amount of money that you're spending on employment. So that is what is happening. I hate to be a downer at the beginning of the pod.
Listen, I'm gonna mention a little bit about it later. It's not in my top 3 stories, but it's like an honorable mention that I'll get to.
Yeah. So it wasn't in my top 3, but it was something that definitely struck me. I don't feel like I don't know. I think that's just like music industry or just music in general. Like it's all about happiness. Like we're happy about music. We love art. We love musical art. But I'm like, I'm just like taking a little, just like a closer, just like an ever so closer look at what is happening. I'm like, guys, this is not good.
It's not good. And you know what I think is so funny? Because I think a lot of people our age, we're in the in-between. So we remember the CD era, but not everyone was really cognizant for the CD era.
Yeah.
We weren't really there. I remember the CD era so differently than this, and it's so much change about how we listen to music, what is successful, and it's like this was the year where 30,000 first week is a success.
Yeah,
like it's almost like when the NBA gets a new CBA and the contracts get bigger, you got to understand that this is kind of like that where we're still thinking of the old days where, you sold 30K first week, you're a failure. That's not where we're at anymore. So when you talk about the music industry changing and kind of getting smaller, that's a big part of it is like we're redefining what success is.
Yeah, because you think about Ice Spice again. Ice Spice didn't sell well. I don't even remember what the number was, but it was under 50K for her debut album. It's probably even under 30 now. I'm really thinking.
It was pretty low.
Right? But the public has regarded her as she's next. Or she's not even next. She's
now.
it.
She's now, yeah.
Right? But if you really think about the metrics, nobody really streams her music that significantly. She has big singles, massive singles. Massive.
Huge.
But when it comes to her bodies of work, it's not, the listenership is not there. So yeah, it's just this weird dynamic that's happening in the industry overall. And that's one of the things, again, this is not even in my top 3, but I guess it's just been something that is just been on my mind the entire time. Watching the industry from afar. Just getting maybe an eagle's eye view of what is happening. I'm just what is going on right now? I don't see very many happy people, I think is probably the biggest thing, actually.
Yeah, not very many happy people. And this is something I thought of recently. If you remember a few years ago when Tidal first came out, and they had all those artists on stage, and that marketing strategy didn't really land well. But if you think back to the present, they're the highest streaming platform in terms of getting people a biggest cut, and that's what artists are begging for now from Spotify and Apple. And it's this is how the whole framework has changed, where Tidal has probably fallen even further into third place than it was at that time.
Even though it's the best thing.
Yeah, the best actual quality of the audio.
Yeah,
the most content outside of actual music on there.
Yeah.
And then for artists, you get the biggest cut.
Yeah, you get the biggest cut.
And to think it's I guess they didn't see where the industry was heading at that time, but the creators of Tidal did.
But you know who else did? At the beginning, Taylor Swift.
Yeah.
Remember Taylor Swift? She didn't want to put her music on Spotify, and she was having this whole battle with Spotify, saying that she didn't want to put her music there because the cut wasn't wasn't proper. And then everybody jumped on her being bro, you're Taylor Swift. Why do you even care about it? But then her and Jay-Z were right. Same with Beyonce. Beyonce was like that too.
Beyonce, Nicki, a bunch of people were right. And Prince, when he was alive, he was a huge part of Tidal as well. And so you talk about where we're at now. That's what I'm thinking back to. Just the foresight that group had, how we talked about them crazy. Even Taylor talked about crazy.
Yeah.
Every Taylor re-release now goes #1.
Yeah.
And so it's I think a big part of all the stories we're going to highlight in this podcast is that the public perception has this big magnified, whether it's right or wrong.
Correct.
And I think that's a huge part of how people are behaving, whether it actually leads to anything. I think about someone like Doja Cat, who's selling out arenas right now. And we stood on this pod and talked about her and that crazy shirt she had on and the things she was doing and how much of a big deal it was. And, nothing has changed.
Yeah.
And so I think that's the biggest thing we realized from this year is when it comes to public perception, everything seems more of a deal and seems more negative than it actually is.
Yeah, I think there's more minutia.
Yeah, 100%.
There's more minutia than, or not even minutia, but there's more of just this, all the shit that's happening on the surface is actually less significant than I think most people realize.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Right? The Doja Cat thing is a great example. Right, where the public perception of her, public turmoil that she was going through with the shirt, with the shirt of she took the Instagram picture, they posted it and then deleted it, and then all the other shit that she said regarding her own music, right? How much she hates her previous, allegedly, hates her previous music, right? And then all of the other comments she's made about just like blackness, just like everything. But still one of the most popular artists of our time.
One of the biggest albums of the year.
One of the biggest albums.
Right? One of the biggest singles of the year.
Agora Hills had its moment, right?
Still having it, yeah.
So, yeah, that's what it really came to this year really showed me is like there's so much, like a lot of it is just like noise.
It's fluff, man. It's
a lot of it is noise versus like what actually happens when people are like streaming who actually listens to your music, who streams the music, like those are separating. And maybe I'm late to this. Maybe I'm late to this party. But I'm like, there is a total separation now. I feel
100. Well, I think you're late to this party, and I'm gonna tell you why. I noticed this maybe 12 years ago with Justin Bieber when he had his whole moment of he's hanging out with too many black kids and he's pissing on the street and he's on drugs. You remember the media circus around that. That was like a whole deal. It was like good kid gone bad. What's going to happen to him? And while this was happening, he was selling a lot of records. And I used to tell people at the moment, I said, I know you're seeing the news and the news is not going to tell you he just went number one. The news is not going to tell you he just sold out staples. But these things are happening at the same time. So you saw him on drugs on Thursday. He sold out staples on Friday. Yeah. And I think that was clear to me. I was like, this is like, you know, it's not as real as it seems. And sometimes you just got to show the story. As journalists, we know that the story is a story. And sometimes someone going number one isn't even really a story as much as someone doing something that we deem as wrong or bad. So I think people are still late. Part of why we do this podcast is got to help people, you know, come along and, you know, join the times. But people are still late. And I think that misconception of people, you know, misunderstanding that is a huge part of, you know, all the stories that happened this year. Yeah. So I feel like we already talked about a couple of things. Doja Cat and Ice Spice are basically the dichotomy I'm talking about. Yeah. Where like Ice Spice, public perception is like hottest shit out, biggest shit out right now. The actual like album sales, different story.
What happened?
Yeah.
But then Doja Cat is like publicly reviled, right? Publicly reviled.
Yeah.
Not very much disliked. Streams going up on a Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, every day.
100%.
So that's probably the clearest example of what I'm talking about. All right. So we're doing top three of our favorite storylines this year. I have a handful of them. But I'll only bring three of them. I think my number one or number three?
Number three.
Number three?
Yeah, let's go number three.
Number three, DJ Envy the Scammer.
We have the same number three. Oh my goodness. Amazing.
DJ Envy the Scammer is probably one of the funniest stories.
Envious.
DJ Envious, yeah. Was probably one of the funniest storylines to come out of music in a very long time because it was out of nowhere. And also, what the fuck? What the fuck are you doing? Why did you do this? Who is this other guy that I've never seen before that you're also associated with, allegedly?
Well, Caesar, people know Caesar. Caesar has been, like, he's been in the Breakfast Club a bunch of times. Yeah. So people who are kind of fans of Envy know Caesar. Right. And in the financial wellness community, at least in the black community, he's known in that community. So he was popular for the wrong reasons.
Exactly. Right? And I'm like, what, are you associated with him or are you not associated with him? Who is getting sued? Is DJ Envy actually getting sued or is it just Caesar that's getting sued? All of that. Like, I feel like it got into this point of like, it was so just crazy of how like, it was so shifty and it's shifty and shady in the way that scammers move. So for the news to also be that way, got me to this point of like, this is I was just having fun. Obviously, people got scammed out of millions of dollars, right?
But we were here for the jokes.
Right? And it was like, it's not my money.
Yeah.
So it was funny in that way. I feel sorry for all the people that got scammed, allegedly.
that I'm happy we had the same one as our number 3.
Yeah.
Loved that story.
Yeah.
When anyone doing something wrong, like scamming, when it comes to the light, we love that to be exposed. Also, DJ Envy still working at the Breakfast Club.
Yeah, he's still out here.
Still working. Nothing has changed. And this is our original point about perception. The perception of DJ Envy got so bad so quickly, and then it blew over. And we forgot.
Yeah.
And he continues to still work. So, again, another example we're saying of like the perception can cloud our judgment of what's really happening. But, still at work. It seems like he's not facing any illegal charges. Caesar, on the other hand, I can't speak for that, but this is one of the best stories because all the clips that came from it. The internet remains undefeated. All these clips going around kind of highlighting the times when it should have been clear it was a scam. And it's funny because now looking at the videos of DJ Envy promoting his business, promoting what he's doing with Caesar, it looks so sketchy.
I know.
I was never down with it. I was never like a believer in them or anything like that. I knew of them. I knew what they were doing. And DJ Envy kind of been known as a financial guy. And so that's what I'm curious to see is like, how does this affect how he's viewed, once this is kind of properly settled with Caesar, because people know DJ Envy as the financial guy. He's about his money, has a bunch of cars. So very, very interested to see how this goes. But this was an amazing story. This will be something that DJ Envy will always have to kind of answer to any interviews he does. And I want to bring up something. Charlamagne brought this up. He did an interview with the Rat Radio. Shout out to Elliot and B-Dot. And they asked them about the Breakfast Club because Ye Left has their own syndicated show. This is about a month or so after the Envy news, maybe even less than that. So they're not talking about it, but they're kind of alluding to it. And they're talking about a Breakfast Club documentary. Okay. And apparently that's in the works, and they're kind of like working on it right now. And Charlamagne was like, "We got to do it now because this whole Envy thing has to be in there."
Yeah.
So I'm very excited to see how this goes. But
I was in New York recently. I was in New York last week. Rest in peace, my grandfather. I was in New York, and I actually listened to
the
Breakfast Club. Was it 105.1?
Yeah.
And everything was going totally normal.
Like nothing happened.
Nobody missed a beat. Donkey of the Day was still happening. Like everything was still going in like it was a regular day. So I'm like, I guess Envy, he moved. Like sometimes people are shady and shysty, and he moved shadily and shystily enough that he is still out here in the light, even though that everybody is looking at him sideways. Like somehow he's just totally sidestepped this entire thing.
Yeah, I think that this is another example of like anyone can come back from basically anything. The two examples I always think of that, again, we were not really there for these two examples, but if you think about, we're talking about these two people I'm about to name in the present, you know exactly what I mean. One is Mike Tyson, went to jail for domestic abuse, putting hands on a woman, was greeted by hundreds of fans leaving the jail.
Yeah.
Tupac, the same thing.
Yeah.
And, to think about, to this day, we're talking about these guys as legends, greats. We don't mention that at all. Envy's going to be fine. That's the most one. Envy's going to be fine. And it's like, we as humans, I feel like we have this urge to be judgmental, which is like kind of amplified by the internet. But if you look at those two examples, Mike Tyson has a whole podcast now where everyone goes on and loves to talk to him. Tupac, people are still calling him the GOAT and bringing up how great he is. So, Envy will be fine. A little scamming is not on the same level as domestic abuse. So I think,
yeah, exactly.
He'll be fine.
So that's my number 3. So go ahead with your, because you have the same number 3. Go ahead with your number 2.
So my number 2, we didn't really talk about on the podcast. Okay. And it had a little bit of update. So that's kind of I wanted to add to it. Was the Irv Gotti interview. When he's talking about his relationship with Ashanti and how he loved Ashanti and all that stuff. That was such a hilarious moment on the internet. And he took some shots at Nelly on that, but now you see Nelly and Ashanti are together now, expecting child.
Yeah.
So that's an interesting one. I think for a lot of people who I mentioned it, people who are still in that 2000s mindset, that's where their music, thoughts still live.
Yeah.
So happy for them. They love this Ashanti Nelly going together. It's like if Nelly and Kelly Rowland almost had a baby. They're like, this is like my dream come true. But I brought this up because we didn't mention this on the pod, but there was videos maybe 6 months ago of Nelly on stage clearly on drugs. Like he was looking like Kai Jones.
Okay.
And clearly everyone forgot about that. But that was my first thought of like, is Nelly clean now? Is his life more together? Because some of these videos were alarming. Like Nelly is rolling on stage, like drooling, eyes open, mic in his hand. Like they were rough. So clearly he's improved since then because he's having a kid now. Him and Shanti are together. I think it's a big come up for Nelly.
Yeah.
And I will stay tuned. You know, some people don't have a lot of faith in celebrity relationships. I'm one of those people. And I kind of saw the way Ashanti had curved Nelly multiple times. So this is very interesting to me.
Yeah, this is a 2000s power couple. If it existed in like 2003.
For sure.
It would have been a big deal.
Oh
but
this would have been bigger than Diddy and J-Lo. Spoiler alert.
Yeah, spoiler alert.
But let's hear your number 2.
My number 2, and I've gone back and forth on this one because I've been really thinking about it. My number 2 is Frank Ocean at Coachella. Frank Ocean's disastrous.
Oh, you're doubling down, eh?
His disastrous concert performance at Coachella. Shout out to the figure skaters that never actually got to do their thing because Frank Ocean just flopped on them. And shout out to the concert goers who, some of them actually just left because Frank Ocean's performance sucked ass.
Shout out to everyone in the comments who's pissed at Demar.
I'm tripling down because this is we did it before and we did it again and we're doing it one more time because the Frank Ocean experience sucks. It's bad. Right? And we need to all acknowledge it. Here's
what I'll say. Because I'm not gonna join you on this hill going against Frank Ocean because he makes good music. I listen to Frank Ocean.
When does he make good music?
In the past.
Exactly.
In the past, not in the present.
Exactly.
But I listen to Frank Ocean basically every day. But
okay, good for you.
He's one of the few artists I think who has that kind of leeway to disappear because of his music is good enough. I think that if he was Lucky Day instead of Frank Ocean, different story.
Okay.
You know, I think he's put out some of the best albums of the past 10, 15 years. And so that's part of why he's allowed to, you know, disappear and fuck up a few times. But I think we got to temper our love for Frank Ocean. I'm with you on that one. Right now we're at 100. Let's just go down to a 50.
Okay.
Because I think that what he did on the Coachella stage, was he not the headliner for Coachella?
Yes, bro. It was a disaster.
And you know, it's funny because that kind of led into Blink-182's reunion and resurgence. And who knows if we even get that album if Frank doesn't do that. So for all the Blink fans, you know, thank Frank Ocean for the new music. But I don't know. You're right. I don't know who else would kind of get that kind of leeway of you fucked up as a headliner. You know,
and then deserted the entire concert because he was supposed to do 2 weekends. Remember, he was supposed to do 2 weekends.
Yeah. Coachella 2 weekends, both weekends. Yeah.
So he just deserted the second weekend, and we're okay with that. That's the thing for me. I'm just like, as a fan, like, how is this your guy? Like, you know, I just don't understand it.
You know who his contemporary is in like a lesser sense, and this person releases music way more often, but someone like Miguel. Miguel also is pretty infrequent with the music. I think his last full album was 2018, 2017. Right. And obviously a lot more frequent than Frank Ocean. But Miguel also makes really good music that it's like, we can stay with his music for a few years. You know, we are cool with, okay, whenever you're ready to bring us more fire, come back. I think my problem with Frank is the performances.
Yeah.
I understand the like waiting for an album for a long time. Yeah. Like my favorite artist is D'Angelo. So you talk about waiting for a project. I'm a veteran at waiting for a project. But this whole performance thing of like flopping the performance, bailing out on both weekends. Yeah. He's done this before in other spaces. I think that, like, who else? This is like, I feel like this is something that you would expect from someone like Kanye.
Yeah.
He's at some times where he's performing halfway through, goes on a rant, leaves the stage, you know, stuff like that. But Frank, I think, can't do this again. So that's my question to you is, do you think that people will stay with Frank, or are people going to eventually join your side? Like, what would be your guess?
I think people are going to stay with Frank because they're delusional.
Delulu?
They're delusional. They're delusional because I think that there will always be, because Blonde is, this is one of the most important albums as, like, if you're a modern music listener, it's one of the most important albums.
Yes.
Right? Endless also is part of that because the storyline between Endless and Blonde.
Yeah.
And then obviously Channel Orange, you know, like again, the music is sick.
Yeah.
Right. But I think that there's this constant hope of like, it's kind of like, it reminds me of like Duke Nukem Forever, right? Or Half-Life 3.
But this is like a whole different level, I feel like.
I don't think so. I think it's really like Duke Nukem Forever or Half-Life 3. Like that's what the next Frank Ocean album feels like. There's this latent hope that it will happen, but there is no indication as to though it actually will. Right? You know, but people are still holding on to it.
That's a good point. And I think with Frank, what he has is that he's getting the like mid-2000s Jay-Z treatment. For everyone who was too young for that time, Jay-Z like pseudo-retired, then came back. But every verse Jay-Z did, we were looking for triple entendres.
Right.
It could be straightforward as ever, but it was like, he's actually talking about the next album that we don't know yet. And it was just everything we did, we made it deeper. Frank is 100% getting that treatment. And anything that we see from Frank, people are like, does it mean the album's coming? Does it mean the album's coming?
Yeah.
And I think that is a part that we gotta really like, we gotta let go of.
This is not GTA 5, okay? He's not GTA 5.
Screaming.
He's Half-Life 3. GTA 5, GTA 6, we just got the trailer for it. It's happening. It's been literally almost 10 years.
People think he's GTA 6.
Right.
I think that's the issue.
Not GTA 6. It's Half-Life 3. That's the difference.
People really do. That's a good. Yeah, I know. Frank as your number 2, I think is a good one because
that's a personal one.
Yeah, the comments today, like
the comments have not been pretty, but it's okay. I will die on this hill alone.
So when putting together that video, I was watching some old Frank Ocean clips, and I said, "Did anyone see this coming? Could we have, predicted that he would just disappear like this?" He performed at the Grammys when Channel Orange came out. He had a lot of videos for that project. And it's like, you really could not have foreseen that he would have been the type of artist that just disappears, especially because if anyone remembers the Lonnie Brew collection, a gazillion songs on that thing.
Yeah, there's a million songs on that thing.
So it's like, he kind of like really went in reverse of like, here's a million songs to
and he was
basically no songs.
And he was a super prolific songwriter before being Frank Ocean. He was just a big time songwriter for like everyone.
Yeah.
So I just like, it's just, maybe he got to the point, I think what might have happened, this is probably like the most I've thought about Frank Ocean in a while, to be honest, is that everything before he was like Frank Ocean, capital letters, was like he's doing like, this is his music career, right? And I think that by the time that the public caught onto him was like mid to late stage Frank Ocean. Like I think...
Oh, he was done, you're saying?
Yeah, like he was like, I'm actually, this is the climax. And people are just catching on to who I was at the climax.
Interesting. Right? That's interesting.
So like by the time we're like Channel Orange, we're on Channel Orange, right? And everybody's like, oh, this is cool new artist. And he's like, bro, I've been here for like 8 years. You guys didn't know. And then by the time that we're getting to like Endless, we're like, here it comes, like he's about to just, and then he's like, actually, my next album is my last joint.
That's actually a good point because we're looking at it at like an ascension starting at Channel Orange. Yeah. When if you go back to Nostalgia Ultra, it's probably like, coming towards the end of his career. Yeah, it's coming to the end. That's interesting. Also because he was, I think, the first one in Odd Future to really make big money. Like before, like they all went solo, like he was the first one to like have bread from that group. Yeah. And I half understand him. I'm sure whatever he's doing in his spare time is more fun than,
Yeah, maybe it's more fun than being in the studio. It has to be because he would be in the studio if it was less fun.
Yeah, and I said this on the last pod. I think he really is suffering from that Lauryn Hill, Andre 3000 syndrome, where his fans put so much expectations on his music of like what they want, which I think is wrong. Frank Ocean, like he does a bunch of different things. Yeah, but I'm like, that must be hard for an artist when everyone's waiting for you and being like, I'm ready for a classic. It's like, let's just hear it first.
Yeah, so that's my number 2, the Frank Ocean debacle, as I'm calling it.
Your boy.
Not, categorically not my boy.
Definitely not.
Categorically not
your boy.
He is not there. He is not. He hasn't been there in like 10 years. Trust me.
My number 1.
Number 2. Oh wait, it is your number one.
We have the same number 3. So this is my number 1.
Yeah.
This one I couldn't leave off the list. I had a bunch of others that I thought of adding. Doja Cat was in there as like an honorable mention.
Yeah, but we gave her shine.
Yeah, we're not gonna give her any more shine.
Yeah.
But this one I just had to put here because of how big a story it is, and it's the Diddy story.
Okay.
Ongoing. I think people are misunderstanding how unprecedented this is and how big of a story this is.
Yeah, he's kind of like getting Harvey Weinstein right now.
Well,
because it's about like what there's the fourth case.
The fourth case, and the fourth case, a woman is underage.
Yeah.
I would say it's more than Harvey Weinstein because Harvey Weinstein, Jeffrey Epstein, those were not well-known names. I think some people knew who Weinstein was if you were kind of in the industry or that kind of thing. That's more like an industry insider type of deal. Same with Jeffrey Epstein, but Diddy is like, you don't even need to be an industry insider to know who Diddy is.
Right.
The last time something like this happened was with Bill Cosby, in terms of a big name, but Bill Cosby had been well past his prime, like retired when this all happened.
Yeah, he's like an old man, like genuinely
an old man.
Yeah.
Diddy put out an album this year. There are clips of Diddy performing at the VMAs from 6 months ago. You know what I mean? So it's like, this is the most current, also like biggest artist figure we've ever had this happen to. And I think this is just the beginning. I said it on this pod. I said in some private conversations. I think the main thing of this Diddy thing is that it's not only men, it's not only women involved, there's also men involved,
right,
which I think he's trying to keep under wraps as well. I think that he's at 4, right now of people accusing him. I don't think it's going to end there. And my question is, Diddy technically has enough money to settle with every single person?
Yeah.
And will someone come forward and be like, nah, I'm taking this to trial. I want to see Diddy in jail. Because like I said before, the history tells us this doesn't happen. Are any of the people I mentioned in jail? I think Epstein was the only one, and we kind of saw what happened
to him.
You know what I mean? So it's like the history of this shows that these people don't usually get jail time. Maybe the public doesn't like them anymore. They have to step down from some of their chairs and board seats.
Which has happened to Diddy.
Which just happened, but the history tells us that jail is not in the cards.
Yeah.
This is a bigger deal, I think, than any of those, for obvious reasons.
Diddy is also black. Right, so the other people that we were talking about were white. They were white dudes with a lot of money, right? A lot of influence. Diddy is a dude with a lot of money, a lot of influence, but he's also black. And I feel like that's a card that is stacked against you in any sort of situation like 100%. This. And then he's also going through the legal system. So I feel like no matter, like he's going to, I think that you're right. I think that there's probably going to be more people just because that's how shit like this goes. Like, there's one person, and then like, is it just the one person? If it's 2, then like a dam breaks. Yeah. And then there's more and more and more and more because people become more emboldened and they feel as though, there's other people that this has happened to. Let me add my story on so we can get this person. Right? And people will believe them. Like, I told Omari this. These stuff about Diddy has been kind of circling for years. Right. 4 years. And, some people might not be in your algorithm or you may not be in the industry to know. But this has been circling around for a long time. But Diddy is seen as Diddy, Right. Not everyone's going to believe that. I was like, oh, no, Diddy wouldn't do that. Now, we're at a time now where it's a lot easier for people to believe. And so coming forward must feel a lot easier when it's like, okay, people will believe me now that I'm not the first, now that I'm not the only one. My prediction is that this will go into next spring. And my second prediction on top of that is that he's not going down alone. Okay. We'll check back in 2024 to see who he brings down with him. But my prediction is that Diddy is not going down alone. And I would guess that this is not going to go to trial. Unfortunately, just how history tells us, Diddy being a billionaire, I can't see this going to trial. You're right about the difference between Diddy and R. Kelly is that R. Kelly was broke. He did not have the money to get it off. But Diddy is definitely, Diddy has so many streams of revenue, like so many different artists. Remember, he was the label exec. Yeah. Right? He was the exec that was also making money or making music on his own label. And think about Revolt. Like, there are so many platforms that Ciroc? Drink Champs, Earn Your Leisure, so many, platforms that are under the Revolt umbrella. I saw Ian Dunlap say this on a podcast that he thinks Puff has to go away for 2 or 3 years and then come back.
The comeback part I don't know about. The comeback part I can't get.
Yeah, he might do a Russell Simmons and just be like, "Yo, I'm leaving for Turks and Caicos," and just never come back.
Never come. Yeah, because I think that there's not really a way that Diddy can come back from this. Mm-hmm. And again, I said this before. I want to see the male rappers who's gonna speak out first, because I have a theory about a bunch of guys who I know Diddy was like a lifeline for them. I think about French Montana. Mm-hmm. French Montana had to know a lot of this going on. Diddy was basically his way of making money.
Right.
Fabulous.
Right.
Super tied to Diddy. So there's a bunch of guys who it's like they are tied to Diddy in a crazy way. On top of this, there's been a lot of rumors circling now about Dame and Jay-Z and how they may be roped into this. Mm-hmm. I think if those are the people that Diddy brings down, we're in for a whole
we're looking to place the entire hip hop would get turned upside down.
Yeah, and I think for two reasons I think there is something there, because there's a clip of someone saying to Dame like, "Oh, I see what you guys did there," because when they signed Foxy Brown, she was 15 on the label, and someone kind of made a comment to Dame about that, and Dame's response is not giving innocent. It's reminding me of Tory Lanez. You know, it's not giving innocent. And then with Jay-Z, he's done it publicly. Mm-hmm. He started talking to Beyonce when she was 17.
Yeah.
No, now that they're married, it's all happy family and, you know, all that kind of stuff. But Jay-Z was 30 when he met Beyonce.
Exactly.
And so he has a public history of being into teenagers. So
yeah, we've seen, there has been a sprinkle of that discourse on the timeline recently.
Oh, yeah. A little.
There's a sprinkle of that.
Sprinkle.
Yes. Yo, you are.
Come on.
I didn't realize that you really exist on that side of TikTok.
That's
Sprinkle,
a good side.
Delulu is a Salulu. Like that is your side of TikTok.
Come on, this is not a men trying to impress men podcast. Just like tell you that.
You definitely follow Prayag.
I don't follow any of them, but I know who that is.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Regardless, I think that we're seeing a sprinkle of that discourse on the timeline. The Beyonce Jay-Z. I've just seen a little bit.
Yep.
It's not a lot to like not moving the needle, but I've seen people talk about it multiple times. Mm-hmm. So the Diddy thing, the sexual. I mean, it's like literally any sexual harassment, sexual assault,
any sexual crime you can think of,
endangerment, whatever,
trafficking,
anything. He has a charge on it right now, allegedly.
Yeah.
Right. So, I can only see there being more happening with Diddy, because like Diddy, Russell Simmons, you know, R. Kelly, you know, there's just more and more dudes in music where like this is finally coming out about them. I'm saying finally because this shit was happening 20 years ago,
the whole
30
time.
years ago.
Yeah. And I think too. There's a video of Diddy. I forget what the name of the song is, but there's a video. Oh, it's Going Bad. Mm-hmm. Diddy, City Girls, and Fabulous. And in the comments for that video, if you're watching this, go look at the comments of that video. Everyone is saying Diddy is showing us his lifestyle like in our face, and we're just not even realizing what it is.
Yeah.
And now, I guess now it's new information. You watch that video a little bit differently, but I wonder how this kind of changes the dynamic of hip hop, because hip hop is very much a don't ask, don't tell type of genre. You know, the culture is very much like, okay, keep to yourself, not my business. Mm-hmm. You know, no one is in here to stand on their morals and out someone else for doing certain things. Mm-hmm. And like I said before, easy to forgive. Someone like Fabulous, you know, publicly known for putting hands on his wife. Yeah. Not something people bring up a lot. Dr. Dre, the same thing. Tupac. And so will this change how we, you know, look at hip hop and those issues? Because very male dominated. Yeah. We see the way women are treated in hip hop. Will that change through this whole Diddy thing? I think right now it's too early to say. But as this goes on, will it change? Will we see some men start to either speak up about it, whether in their music or just on the internet? Will that change? That's kind of my question. I hope that it does. I'm obviously not hopeful because
skeptical of that.
Yeah, super skeptical. But my hope is that it does change. But my worry is that there are just too many of them that are, you know, guilty in some way, shape, or form.
That protect each other.
That gotta protect. I think about even Drake's last album. He had a lyric on there putting Cialis in her drink, and I said, "What the hell is that about?"
Yeah. Or even Rick Ross. Remember Rick Ross?
Rick Ross. She didn't even know it.
Yeah.
And it's like, if you're cool to say this in your music, what are you doing behind the scenes, you know? So, and the other part of it is like, there's a crazy group of men and y'all know who you are who think that shit is cool when it is not.
Yeah.
And I think that has me worried about the future of hip hop, because the amount of dudes who were kind of protecting Diddy and all of this is
crazy.
A crazy amount. And that's my thing. Who will be the first? Farnsworth Bentley is someone who I think people are bringing up a lot because he was Diddy's assistant for a few years,
right,
and helped Diddy, you know, get into his whole dressing better and suit era. And then they had their falling out. And Diddy's first wife said in an interview that Farnsworth Bentley was Diddy's concubine, which is a crazy word to use.
Yeah, concubine.
Yeah, crazy word to use. But that's my thing. I just want to see, how will this affect the way, you know, we talk about, you know, assault and sexual crimes in hip hop, how people treat it, and how the way women are treated.
Yeah,
you know,
because there was even people like XXX Tentacion and his girlfriend, like this crazy shit, bro. If you ever read the details,
it's
alleged details, because he was dead before he actually went to full trial for everything. But
it was
insane.
And again, it's like, I think there's, and why I bring this up is because we talk about this like fake morality on the internet now of like everyone's judging someone else. Oh, you follow this person. Oh, you support this person. I think that there has to be a bit of real morality in the sense of like who we actually listen to. Because they changed the stream on Spotify, your listens ain't getting that person that much money. So your boycott of someone's listens is not really doing much at this point. So listen or don't listen, that's a different story. But I think of how we kind of like perceive someone and sticking with that is what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Of like, you know, Dr. Dre, T.I. has a line in a song where he talks about, you know, hit a bitch like Dr. Dre. How crazy is that for Dr. Dre to do that, still be considered one of the greats, and then T.I. to reference it in a bar? That is where hip hop really is. This is obviously an old song, but this is where hip hop really is. And so, where will that perception change of like, okay, we know T.I. and Tiny did some crazy shit. Are we still going to view them the same? Or I know that so-and-so is same, because I think that hip hop has that with the wrong things. Like Isaiah Rashad, people are holding on to that with Isaiah Rashad.
Yeah.
And it's like that.
But I felt like I do feel as though some people did like come around him. Yeah. But it was definitely a weird moment for him. Like
and people still have like a certain, you know, tone about talking about Isaiah Rashad, which is ridiculous. But it's like, look at the things that we're focused on. You know, like there are real crimes happening that we should have more of a thing about. And who knows if that will happen? I think hip hop really glorifies violence and, you know, criminal activity. So maybe that will always be the case. But that's my hope through this whole Diddy thing. Whoever else he brings down is that we can look at some of these hip hop figures a lot differently.
Yeah. So we're in this space already. So I'll give you my number one, because it's basically on top of this.
Wow.
Is Tory Lanez.
Yep.
He caught that case heavy. They hit him with the book, like I said they would. I said they were going to throw the book at him. He got
10 years.
10 hard years.
Yep.
10 hard years for shooting Megan Thee Stallion, or shooting a firearm, which allegedly hit Megan Thee Stallion in the foot.
All the people who got free Tory Lanez in their bio, man.
Again, you need help, bro. The people with free Tory...
#BetterHelp.
For real, because people with free Tory Lanez in their bio, you are legitimately living in a different reality at this point, right? Like, there's been so much evidence. There's been the whole court case. You know, if you've been following it from the beginning, right? Again, it wasn't. Again, I want to stress this: Megan Thee Stallion was not the person that pressed the charges. It was the state. It got to the point of him being so loud and boisterous about what was happening that the state was like, okay, hold on a second. Let me look into this shit real quick. Right? So Tory Lanez, the free Tory Lanez people, get a life. I don't know how else to say that like more sternly. Get a life. You are like, why are you sticking by the loser?
I looked at hip hop as a whole so differently after that. Before he even got his time, I can't look at our genre the same anymore.
Yeah, because I was like, how are you? I don't even see how you are like a free Tory Lanez person. Like, I just don't get. Yeah, I don't get. They're like, oh, we're trying to, anything to pull a black man down. I'm like, not really, because like, yo, if you're shooting other people,
he's pulling himself down. It's the group of men who feel like they have to bring women down, be against women.
Yeah,
which I really don't understand.
Right.
But it's two parts to this. One, Meg is one of the leaders of the new school of hip hop.
Facts.
Any type of hip hop, she's one of the leaders.
Yeah.
She's one of the new queens of the genre. For us to treat her like this in this situation as a genre, it was crazy.
She's a victim.
Was crazy to me. I'm like, how does Meg feel safe in hip hop? Does she feel protected in hip hop? That's a male dominated space. How could she? At a time like this. Secondly, there was all the like internet lawyers and the semantics kings saying he didn't mean to shoot her. And I always say this is like, if you're out with your friends and your friend pulls a gun on a woman he's sleeping with and shoots around her, does that sound cool to you? No. So it's kind of like the internet lawyers were saying it's okay because he didn't mean to shoot her, but he just scared her.
Yeah.
And I always say is like, if a friend of yours, your mom, your sister, whoever said that happened to them, you would be pissed.
Yeah.
And so it's like to think that whole, I don't know, male ego of I gotta put women down, it's us against them, overstated that the fact that this is what really happened. I can't. A lot of people I can't look at the same, and it's unfortunate. But I think Meg is going to continue on and be a star in this space.
Yeah, shout out to her.
And Tory's going to be
not. He's going to be not.
He's going to be behind bars.
He's going to be behind legit for 10 years. I think that the Tory Lanez saga revealed so much about how people talk about hip hop on the internet now. Like the way places like the Shade Room and like hip hop Twitter overall, the fucking people in the comments, like
it's embarrassing. It
was just like, yo, you guys are I don't even fully know the word I'm trying to convey. It's just like maybe it's just like disappointment.
Yeah.
Right? Where I'm just like, nobody has any sort of respect for what happened, the people involved, the victim, because Megan Thee Stallion did have bullet fragments in her foot. That's a legit thing. So it's not like nothing happened, right? But for whatever reason, there was this rush to protect Tory Lanez, like he's some sort of savior of the genre, like he was like some sort of really important figure.
We're treating Tory Lanez like he's Nelson Mandela.
Like what the fuck, right? And I want to say on Tory Lanez, this is, I think, the biggest fumble in hip hop history, I think.
Oh, you're right. From where he was to where he is now?
I legitimately think it's the biggest fumble in hip hop history.
And maybe the quickest.
Too, because he went from where he was like in Toronto, right? And like was actually like a poppin' artist. He has a legit fan base. He does, right? A legit international fan base too. He was on the label, then he separated from the label. He had that. Remember when he had the remix on What's Poppin'? It was the best part of that remix.
Yeah.
The freestyle he had on Aiden Ross's stream.
Oh, yeah.
And that was like everywhere. Like you can see, I feel like you see that freestyle pop up on any timeline, like every 3 or 4 months, right? Then he went from then he got to the point where he had no label, and then he had quarantine radio. Hundreds of thousands of people showing up to watch him do shit live.
Quarantine radio. And the thing is like
he was the poppin' shit during the pandemic.
No, he was the guy. He was the guy.
He was the person everybody was waiting for during the pandemic when everything went to shit. People were like, yo, did you see quarantine radio? Tory Lanez is doing crazy shit.
Yeah.
Right? He's the most poppin' person during when nothing was poppin'.
Yeah, when nothing was poppin', he
was poppin', right? And then he's dating Megan Thee Stallion, again, one of the most important women in hip hop, period, right now.
Yeah.
Right? And just one of the most important artists.
People,
in hip hop, period, right now. Right? So to go from that, right, where you're independent, everybody is tuning into, everyone is tuning into you, and you're dating one of the hottest artists in your genre, in music, period. To go from that to you are now sitting down for 10 years is a catastrophic fumble.
Big bag fumble.
Catastrophic. His life.
He's making short guys look bad.
Maybe he does now, but before, I don't think he realized how disastrous this situation is. He probably does now that he actually is in jail for 10 years, but I don't think anybody else actually really thought about it. But this is a catastrophic, disastrous, calamitous, this is a shambolic fumble that I have never. I can't even think of.
No, this is the biggest fumble, and why I think of what you mentioned about the quarantine radio. He was getting ready to pop off. The whole thing with his label, it was it's funny because the music he's put out since all that has happened, I've only heard some of it. Everything I've heard has been good. I'm not listening to full albums. I'm not Tory Lanez out, but every song I have heard has been good. He was making some of his best music of his career. And we talk about everyone talking about independent artists now. Usher about to be the first independent artist to perform at the Super Bowl. He would have been the leader of the independent movement.
It would have been him and fucking Brent Faiyaz, bro.
He would have been at that time. Brent wasn't Brent yet. True. He would have been. And the thing about it is talk about the biggest bag fumble. He was making a lot of the good money on this label. Doing shows on the label. People loved his concerts, known as a great performer. Yeah. And so to think about where he is now, the independent money he could have been getting right now with the music that I've heard
would have been insane. And
he
was also one of those people who was trying to think of new ways to get the music to people.
Yeah.
How you can see. Was he one of the first people that sold their music as an NFT? He got a ton of money off of that. Right? So he did, here's the thing. He understood how to maneuver in a Russ way, Brent Faiyaz way, where he did understand, you don't, if you're
editing his videos himself.
Yeah, he did the videos himself. He understood to a degree where not just the music, but the music business, and be if you can actually grip your artistry and the business, you don't actually need the label, right? And he understood that to a degree that most artists do not. And he was actually getting to the point where he was succeeding with it. Quarantine radio was his idea. Nobody came up with that.
That was him.
That was his idea, right? So for him to he's actually one of the better business minds.
100%.
Right? When it comes to the music industry.
Sad.
For him to just totally throw it away is actually, again, I think it is the biggest fumble in hip hop history. I can't think of anybody else. People would be like, oh, Mace shouldn't have left. I was the Mace is whatever, but there's nothing like this.
Here's the thing. I would say that this is a bigger bag fumble than Mace because Mace wasn't independent.
Yeah.
Tory was about to get the independent bread. And someone I think of, having one of probably their biggest year is Gunna.
Yeah.
He also had a little court case issue. We didn't mention him at all in our top 3.
Yeah.
But Gunna's having his biggest year as a solo artist, his biggest solo success, his biggest solo song reaching close to the top of the charts. That is what I feel could have been here for Tory. If Tory didn't do any of this. Tory could have been in that same lane. And I think too, musically, I don't want to say an anomaly because there are other guys that rap and sing, but the style that he does it in, not common. Yeah. And had he gotten that chance to be independent, have that run, music would have been in a real different place. So maybe biggest bag fumble of all time.
I want people out there, tell me if there is another artist in the history of hip hop or even music. Maybe in music, maybe there's people who are dead, they got killed, but he fumbled. He had it all in his hands.
Millie Vanilli is the biggest bag fumble, maybe.
But they were, maybe Millie Vanilli. But I don't even know if that's a fumble though, because there was the person that was behind them was a dude that was writing all their music.
But he had done that before. That was the second time doing that.
Yes, it was.
That's why I'm saying it's a bag fumble, because he had another group that was also popular.
That's true.
Where he wrote all their music.
All right, so it's between Tory Lanez and Millie Vanilli. It's pretty bad. That's pretty bad. We're talking about that's pretty bad. But people out there, name me somebody who fumbled a bigger bag, a bigger just cultural relevance.
That's gonna be hard.
somebody who fumbled worse in hip hop history, which I don't think there is.
No.
And then music history, right? There's probably somebody in the background. They could have bought this, or they could have sold that, or something like that in music history, right? Like there's probably like a higher level like exec who could have bought this level. Yeah, exactly. That's like different. I'm talking about like this artist
self-inflicted.
They just hit the eject button on their life.
Basically. You know what I just don't understand about this whole thing? Like, let's just go back to Meg for a second, because we gave Tory Lanez probably the most love he'll ever get on this podcast.
I don't know if it was love though, because I'm like, this guy's fucking up.
No, but we talked about how talented he was, how smart he was business wise. Like that's the thing is like Tory Lanez, as much as he wasn't as popular as Meg, at that time, Meg maybe had a bigger song in Savage. Yeah. But in terms of like an artist with a catalog and a fan base.
Yeah, he was bigger than her.
He was a bigger artist. And it's like, he wasn't like a nobody. You know what I mean? Like it's not, I don't want to put anyone in that nobody category, but he wasn't a nobody. Meg, I think this being part of her story is just the way that everyone has treated what she's been through. And let's just go back to Diddy for a second. And it's like, think about how we all treated Cassie when Cassie came out. So many people were putting out words for her, love and light, happy that, you know, she was able to get her settlement and have the courage to go public with this. Yeah. But Meg didn't get that same reaction. And I think my thing is how this will all be remembered a few years from now. Like, this just happened this year. He's not even a year into his sentence. But once we're years down the line, how will this all be remembered? Because like you said before, Meg didn't press charges. Meg was, quote unquote, doing the 10 toes thing, standing down. That's what she was doing. What the dudes think Tory Lanez is doing is what Meg was doing. Yeah. Will history remember that the right way? Will history remember that Tory Lanez was, quote unquote, taunting Meg, and then that kind of forced the authorities' hands, okay, we got to press charges now. Yeah. Because this all could have not happened at all.
He didn't say shit. All he had to do was, sometimes, like, there's this thing in Telltale Games, shout out to Walking Dead, silence is an option.
Silence is an option.
Silence is an option. You don't have to say anything, right? If he didn't say anything, he would be outside. Legit. If you just didn't, if it happened, everybody had their gripe, their Instagram spat, everybody going blah, 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 blah. And then it's calmed down. That's it. That was it. There was a period in time where it happened. Everybody was upset. There was, people fighting back and forth, It was
rumors.
And then it stopped. And all he had to do was stop. That's it. That's all he had to do. That's why I say it's a fumble, because all he had to do was nothing.
I think that for all the listeners, everyone on YouTube who are the Tory Lanez fans, who are watching this and being like, it was Kelsey or he didn't mean to. I think you need to really check yourself. Think about how you think about women, how you treat women, how you feel about women. And if you are, do all of that and you're still in this defend Tory Lanez category, use a condom at all times. Please do not.
And we don't need more of you.
We don't need anyone procreating, because that's my whole thing. I know I'm going too far now, but think about this whole thing. I'm like, a lot of these dudes are, first of all, the fresh and fit folks.
Oh my God.
The Kevin Samuels folks. Oh. But a lot of these dudes have dreams of being fathers. Yeah. And I was gonna say, why I remember this. Think about, your kid years from now, finding your Twitter and seeing how you're bigging up Tory Lanez after all this happened. Yeah. How are you gonna feel about, imagine that was your father. Imagine the Tupac thing happened, Dr. Dre thing happened, Mike Tyson thing happened, and you find out that your father was there welcoming home.
Yeah, that's crazy.
You're gonna look at that a little different. And that's what this is like, a lot of these dudes who are pro Tory Lanez, whatever it is, these dudes want to be fathers one day. And so we're in a crazy place in the culture. Yeah. But
that's what I'm saying.
Wish them all the best, man.
That's what I'm saying. They live in a different reality, because the reality currently is he's going to be gone for 10 years and he's just going to have to hold that. There's no other move. There's no other move. Yeah. He's locked. He's locked up for 10 years. Shout out to Megan Thee Stallion. I think, Megan Thee Stallion, this is a step. I think this is a tumultuous time that she went through. I don't want to say she had to. She didn't. No. But she did. Yeah. And she made it through. She's still out here doing her, doing real hot girl shit. Happy for her. And there's going to be another chapter for her for them, more chapters for her in the coming years. And that is more than you can say for the person that shot her, allegedly.
Last but not least, Tory Lanez does have more monthly listeners than Meg Thee Stallion, which...
mind-blowing.
But
not really, though.
I actually do kind of get it, like, sonically, if you're choosing between the two. But is there any other stories that we did not mention that you just want to give a little bit of a shout-out to?
Before we leave?
Yeah, it's a little bit of a shout-out to anything that comes to mind.
Something that I wrote down, but it's not really a music story, but it kind of is. The Weeknd in The Idol was a disaster.
I forgot about that.
You forgot about good. I want more people to forget about that.
That was this year. Oh my gosh.
Maybe I shouldn't even have brought it up so I can save his grace, because The Weeknd in The Idol, first of all, that show, it was not good. It was not good. But also his performance in it was
it's questionable.
Exactly. I still can't tell if he's doing it on purpose or not.
No, he did say he wants his character to be uncomfortable.
Yeah.
But my problem, which has always been my problem,
is
that he's one of the executive producers on the show.
Right.
And his character being...
that type of sleazeball?
Yeah, his character being so non-consensual.
Yeah.
What's that about?
Yeah. That's just very weird to me.
Yeah. That's the thing is, like, this is your show.
Yeah.
You're the EP. Mm-hmm. You're the one who changed the script.
Yeah, you did.
So this is what you wanted to go with?
Change the script and the director, because it was going to be a different... I forgot, it was like a woman that was going to be a director for the show. I can't remember now.
And so he said he's done with music. I honestly don't believe him.
Yeah, I don't believe that
but
either.
I, at least in the present, will look at The Weeknd a little differently because... think about it. If Euphoria was Euphoria and Drake just put himself in the show. Yeah. He's an actor in the show, but his character is just the nastiest nigga you would ever seen. Mm-hmm. You're going to be like, Drake, we did not need this. Like, what? That's The Weeknd is like, I'm not trying to say he's Diddy or anything. I'm not trying to bring him to the podium, If that is who he is, his time will come. Mm-hmm. But this is not a good sign. The Idol is not a good sign. So it was bad acting.
Yeah.
Questionable choices.
Yeah. The show was not good. But the thing is, the show was not good, but the aesthetic was nice. Like the aesthetic of it, like just like looking at it out of the screen, it looked good. And
there's potential there. I've been said this for years. I'm like, a show that's like a new age version of Entourage would do huge now in the internet era.
Yeah,
a show like that where it's like this is a fictional pop star, but everything else is real.
Yeah,
would be huge.
Yeah,
having Mike Dean play himself, I thought was a great idea.
Me too.
But just Mike Dean is like, what is so great about Mike Dean that it's just Mike Dean? Mm-hmm. They should have really expanded that to she's working with other real producers or she's friends with other real celebrities.
Yeah.
Idol. Stay canceled.
It's over.
But I'm putting this into the air. If we could get another show of that ilk, again, Entourage style, where it's a fictional star in the real world, So that I would love. I really think that the world might be too cancelable for that now.
I don't know, because I think I agree with you. I think that the concept is actually brilliant. It would be perfect for her right now. The Weeknd just included himself too much in it. If he was actually less in it and it was more about Lily Rose Depp, I can't remember the name of the character.
Yeah.
If it was actually about her and like her living that lifestyle and what it would be like.
Yeah.
And like the people, the manager and the producer and her personal assistant, her assistant, which was great in the show. She was really good.
Yeah,
she was really good. If it was about her and them, their orbit around her, that would have been incredible. I think that's actually a really good show.
A great show. So they dropped the ball. Yeah. And The Weeknd, you're right. They didn't need to be that big a part of it. That was ridiculous. Yeah. But why I say it might be a little bit cancelable is I rewatched Entourage a couple months ago, and there's a few scenes where they mention Harvey Weinstein.
Oh, okay.
And of course, hearing that now is kind of like, but he's actually in a couple of scenes.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
And they reference him a few times as like he's the big dog, like he's the one you want to get to greenlight your movie. And I don't know if they could have that now. I feel like it's just like there's too many questionable characters. Yeah. Where it's like, will this age well if we say this? If we say this person is big in the show. Yeah. 2 years from now, will it be like, oh, okay, gotta cut that scene out? Yeah. So that's my only worry, is that everyone's just too nasty that you couldn't do it. But I think bring up the Idol on the Weekend is one of the greater stories of the year.
Yeah.
And then this one, we definitely should have mentioned it. It's not really a music story and it's ongoing, is Taylor and Travis.
Oh my God.
I just saw that Travis's podcast was the #1 sports podcast in all of streaming, which is, we know what that's about.
Right.
But
Taylor Swift, honestly, but I don't feel like it's a top 3. Like, I don't love the story.
No, it's not top 3, but it is a huge story.
Yeah.
And I think what I'm more highlighting is the Taylor effect. I mentioned it before that Nicki said that once Taylor posted herself, like, listening to Super Bass and dancing to it, that it took off, And that's the Taylor effect. Like, we don't have that many artists who have that effect anymore.
Yeah.
There's obviously the Drake effect when it comes to the actual music and the artist charting. That has remained for over a decade. But the Taylor effect to permeate sports and podcasting.
Yeah, that was pretty crazy.
We have not seen that in a long time. And some of these Chiefs games are the most watched games in years in the NFL.
Yeah.
So I just want to highlight that because when someone got mad about comparing her to Michael Jackson, I understood that.
Yeah.
But when you see something like this happen, you kind of get what they're saying because who else could have this effect? Adele hasn't had that effect. Drake hasn't had that effect. Taylor really is the only one.
Yeah, the Taylor Swift saga or her life this year. Because remember when she was dating Maddie Healy?
Oh yes.
She
forgot about that.
Yeah, she was dating Maddie Healy this same year. So she went from like a boyfriend that everybody hated to is Travis Scott a himbo?
Travis Kelce.
Why did I say Travis Scott? Travis Scott might be a himbo though, for real.
Now, people say he's too ugly to be a himbo.
So Travis Kelce legitimately might be a himbo.
Is this Taylor's first himbo?
Yeah, because all of her everybody she's dated is not that
more
good
artsy
looking.
type.
Yeah, and they're also like not that good looking.
Yeah. Well, it's Taylor.
So, but you're Taylor Swift. I feel like you could just have. I feel like Taylor Swift, she could just have like a blank slate model boyfriend that like doesn't say anything ever, and it would have been totally fine. But she feels this need to be dating some like art dude for whatever reason. I don't understand.
I don't think it works the same for women. I think if a man is less attractive and he has money, like a Travis Scott, he'll be able to get more attractive women. But I think if a woman has money and she's not as attractive, it's not going to work the same.
Yeah, but I agree. But here's the thing: like Travis Kelce is like his most popular thing right now with Travis Kelce is that he has airhead tweets.
Yes.
Right? Where he's just like, oh my God, there's a squirrel. It's like, yo, this guy's got tons of nuts in that tree. Like, that's the fucking shit he tweets about. And that's what we're talking about. Like, oh yeah, he's so good for her. So that's what I'm saying. Like, she could have, for years now, could have just had like ex-boyfriend that is a model, never says anything, just looks pretty on Instagram.
Oh, and I see what you're saying.
And she would have been totally fine. I don't understand why she needs, like, she feels the need to be going after this art dude who low-key doesn't seem like they like her at all. Like, they kind of
for the look.
They're dating her for the look, but like the concept of what Maddie Healy dislikes the concept of what Taylor Swift is.
Yeah,
but
she's Taylor Swift.
So yeah, so that's the situation. I think Taylor Swift, whatever, she's doing her thing. Not my favorite thing this year, but we will acknowledge it. And I guess we will acknowledge Drake and his feud with women. That's constantly happening.
That's never changing. That's gonna be.
But I think it boiled over this year to the point where people were talking about like, yo, he's an incel.
I wouldn't. I guess it did because her loss was a big. Her loss was last year, but leaked into this year. But my thing is that someone like Drake, that's part of what makes him a good artist. So much of his petty, like you think about Marvin's Room. Marvin's Room is a petty song.
Yeah.
That's some people's favorite Drake song.
Yeah.
So it's like, you don't get him singing fuck that nigga with his whole chest. If he's not a little, you know what I mean? Like a little's not there. So I think you need both sides. And then when it comes to Taylor and Travis, I think Taylor just can't date anyone who doesn't have money like that. I think same with Adele. I think we get a certain level. It's like you, even if you're rich, I'm going to be richer than you. So you need to have your own money. You can't be making $70,000 and I'm making $100 million. So I think that's a big part of it as well. But A lot of great stories this year. In the comments, let us know any stories that we missed. What were your favorite stories? I just want to know, what are the people's favorite things from this past year of music? Because we didn't talk about no music, actually, this podcast.
Yeah, we're just talking about all the storylines.
But a lot of interesting storylines this year. So many things shifting and changing. Talk about Matt Haley. Talk about the Ice Spice Taylor Swift thing. That was a whole deal too. So a lot of creative things happening this year. I want to know everyone's favorite stories. And let's hear some positive stories. We were talking about a lot of nasty people doing some crazy things.
I know. The DJ Envy one, even though it's not positive, for me was a positive story.
Because it made you laugh. Yeah. What's your favorite positive story? Someone having a big come up, having the best year of their career. So I want to hear some stories like that, because we've been over an hour now.
Yeah.
Been mostly negative. Sorry, Ashanti and Nelly was positive.
Yeah,
even though I sprinkled some negativity in there.
Yeah.
But I want to hear some positive stories. Let us know what are your favorite positive stories of the year.
Yeah. So thank you everybody for tuning in. This was Soundbites, the part of the Album Mode podcast where we're talking about the music, the culture, and the internet, and how those three things intertwine to create the music culture today. This was basically that entire, this episode was basically all that. So thank you, everybody. Make sure you're following us on Instagram at Album Mode Pod, Twitter at Album Mode Pod, TikTok at Album Mode Pod, and here on YouTube where you're watching it with our beautiful faces at Album Mode. We have, we're at we're at 1,400 subscribers now. Yeah,
past 1,400.
Yeah, almost 1,500. So we're still climbing. Shout out to the people in the comments who are like, why isn't this bigger? Or like, these guys have like the most thought out, ideas.
Agree with you.
We agree. I see you, right? I am replying to your comments. I am talking to you. One of my favorite things about our podcast is that people leave comments, and I am legitimately talking to you. Because
reply to all people that are hating on you right now. The Frank Ocean folks.
People who still love Frank Ocean, I feel sorry for you. Couldn't be me. Couldn't be me. I got 99 problems, but Frank Ocean ain't one. That's not a thing for me anymore. That's your problem now.
Oh my goodness.
That's your problem now. But shout out to the haters as well. Shout out for the engagement and helping us in the algo. We much appreciate that.
On our way to 5,000 subs.
So yeah, thank you everybody for tuning in. And Adriel, make sure you know yourself and know your worth.
Later days.